Hey guys, today I decided I would make a video based off of coil building, and it's pretty much for people who are starting to get into RDAs, a couple of tips and tricks on my own. Obviously, big YouTubers like Rip Trippers and Twisted Messes and Grim Green, they're obviously all gonna help you a shit ton better than I will, but I'm hoping that a couple of my tips and tricks are definitely going to help. A couple of my tricks I did learn from them, so you're probably going to end up going on their site and everything, or their YouTube channel, and just checking out all the stuff that they've done. So, all that I have right here are wire snips, because even though they're big as hell, whenever I'm working on stuff in my RDA base, and I have to go in, it does sit kind of flush. So I'm able to snip things a lot easier and get that excess coils, excess Canthol or Nichrome or whatever you choose to use out the way. I've got already a pre-built coil. This is 24 gauge 5 wrap. Now I have not done anything to this except for build it with my coil jig. But as you can see, if you can even see it, these are very, very tightly wrapped coils. I've got my pliers to help crimp. And then I've got a screwdriver that fits my RDA screws, which was convenient with this. This is a utility knife. I've got my coil. This is 24 gauge Canthol. Got my coil jig. I build my coils on it. It's very simple. Put it through the hole right there. Comes out through a hole about right here. I don't know if y'all can see that, barely. And you pretty much just twist it until you get the amount of wraps that you want. It builds it not exactly perfect, but damn near perfect. We've got our cotton. Whoops. I've got my juice. This juice I have made myself. This is a lemonade flavor that I made myself using PG, a lot of VG. It's barely any PG. It's barely any VG right now. It's mainly PG because I'm running low on VG, and I want to try to save it as much as I can. But I put some lemon in there, and I wish you guys could smell this. It smells so good. I'm gonna add a couple more drops later. And then obviously we have our device. Right now I've got my aero tank on there, which I'm going to be vaping off of during this video, which, by the way, I'm running it at about 5.4 watts, 2.4 ohm coil, 12.1 watts. And then we have our RDA. I am going to be using a Mutation V2 in this video, and as you can see, this is kind of old. I've definitely had this for quite a while. I can't even remember how long I've had it, but it's definitely really good. So first what we're going to do is we're going to build our coil. Now since we already have a coil pre-made, we don't have to worry about all the time restrictions, which is kind of why I did it. But what we're going to do is we're going to get our coil jig ready. We're going to take out a little bit of coil, a little bit of Canthol. See, you only need about that much, not very much, in order to build a coil. I'm going to snip that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert this in my coil jig, and I'm going to put it about right here. Now for those of you who are not using a coil jig, if y'all are using like a screwdriver, what y'all are going to do is y'all are going to take this little piece and y'all are just going to keep going around and around and try to keep them as tight as possible. Now I'm going to start making my coil. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, now I'm just going to bring it down a little bit just to make sure it's all good. Now I can... Ah, shit, I just pricked myself really bad. Yeah, that's another thing you gotta be careful with. It can poke you really easily. Alright, now, as you can see, these are some alright coils, you know. One lead's kind of going diagonally, which is not what you want, but what you can do is you can put this in, and you can kind of push it to the base, and what that's gonna do is that's pretty much just gonna straighten them out mostly. Now, you guys can't see it, but about between the second and third coil, there is a little bit of a gap, which I'm going to be teaching you guys how to fix. Okay, now we're going to take our RDA base. Now that you've got 2 coils built, we're going to go from first post, skip the first positive connection, and go to the second positive connection. And the reason why we're going to do that is because for me, it's much easier, and it's much easier to build and use on there. And I definitely find it very easy to use, so of course, you know, I'm so sorry for the very horrible camera quality, but insert one lead, and then insert the other lead. Okay, as you can see, I've got my coil in there. Now here's another thing with the pliers that helps. You can kind of pull it in a little bit. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take our screwdriver. Okay. Well, let me straighten this out real quick. Snap back in the backpack. Okay, hashtag. Because the smoke nigga past that. So sorry that this is taking forever, but as you can see, I've got my coil in there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take whatever I built my coil with, going to insert it into the coil, and I'm going to straighten it out so that way it's horizontal. Okay, there we go. It's pretty straight. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to take my wire snips and I'm going to cut it as close to that post as I possibly can. Okay, now y'all can't really see it that well, but oh yeah, you can see it, but there's just very, very little coil right there, and that's not going to be an issue. Okay. Now it's time for that second coil. Okay, now what I usually like to do after this is I like to push this coil down, and the reason why is so that way whenever I go and put in my second coil, okay, put it through the positive, it'll go usually over the first set of coils I built, and then you know, you might struggle a little bit, but you're gonna get it eventually. Okay, push that in. Alright, now I'm just gonna tighten these connections. kind of hard trying to keep on finding new music for the background. And of course we have an advertisement playing. I know I'm not using my screwdriver for those of you who could actually see that. It's just that this is faster for me, because sometimes that screwdriver actually doesn't work. Okay, now once again, get as close to that post as you possibly can. And just snip that coil, that lead, because those are definitely unneeded. Now what you can do is that coil you pushed down earlier, you can push that back up, move it where you want it, and now with that other coil, you know, of course, straighten it out. Okay, and voila, you've got 2 coils in your RDA. Now, I know I said I was going to vape on this for the video, but I know I haven't taken a hit. I've got some blueberry menthol in there that I mixed with menthol, spearmint menthol flavor, and I had a blueberry pre-made juice that I put in there, and it just didn't mix right completely, but it does taste kind of good. So I am able to use it. Works pretty well. Very, very, very strong throat hit, which is not really what I'm a fan of, but I'll live. Now, if you guys are using mechanical mods, or for those of you who don't know what that term is, tube mods, pretty much you're gonna have to be extra careful, because even though your batteries, most of you, if you're smart enough and have basic common sense properties, you're gonna have protected batteries. Now the reason why you have that is because it's trying to protect you from shorts, which means if there's another metal touching it while it's firing, or it fires for too long, that battery doesn't start to have problems, which doesn't always lead to, but it can lead to actually exploding your battery, which is why the protection is there in the first place. So you guys definitely want protected batteries. For those of you who have mods, it more than likely already has shorting protection built in. So what I've got it right now is I've got it set to 3.8 volts. This is a 0.3 ohm coil build, okay? So this is going to be a very high voltage for these coils. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lower it down to 2 volts, which is the lowest it can go. And I'm going to press the button. I'm going to heat up the coils. And now, for those of you who cannot see, let me turn off or move my lamp. Okay. Now I'm going to heat it up again. Turn off my monitor. Okay, now, I know y'all can barely see it, but there are a lot of hot spots, which means that your coils are way out of whack. And what that pretty much stands for is, what you want is, say that there are 5 wraps. No, say that there are 10 wraps, okay? It's a very thick coil and you can see it. Now, hot spots is when it's going to heat up anywhere but the middle first, and then it's going to heat up the rest of the coil. What you want is, you want it to glow from the center and out from the coil. So the way to fix that is to heat up your coil. Let me turn this up a little bit. Alright, heat up your coil, let go of the button first, and then crimp it with your pliers. And what that means is pretty much just press the coil together. And now that coil is fixed. Now we need to work on the other coil. So crimp it. Okay. Now one coil is not working right now. Okay. Now I have both coils glowing evenly in and out. And I know you cannot see that at all. As a matter of fact, looking at my camera, it is very, very crappy quality. I definitely need to get a better camera if I'm going to keep doing these videos. Now that your coils are completely set up, it is time to start wicking. Now usually with cotton balls, they're going to be in a ball form, and now if you just take it and you pinch a little bit, it should start to come out kind of unrolling like this. So it's not really a ball, it's kind of like a cotton roll, but either way it's going to work. Now I've got this huge thick piece of cotton and I do not need all that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear it in half. Okay, and now as you can see, I've got a pretty moderately sized piece of cotton. This is still very huge, but what we're going to do is we're going to tear that in half from the middle, and that should give us just enough cotton to work with. Now when you're using cotton, you roll it. Okay, you don't twist it to get it very tight, you roll it because that way it makes the juice flow better. Now there is one exception to twisting your cotton, and that is at the very end right here. You twist it so it fits much easier in the coil. Okay, sometimes you may have to take your cutting tool, your wire snippers, or some other form of cutting tool, and you might have to trim it a little bit. Okay, but that looks about good enough to fit in my coil. Okay, now what you want with this is you want it tight. Okay, you want it to be tight but not too tight. You want it to be snug whenever you pull it into the coil. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to tuck it under. Okay, tuck it all under that coil. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find a very, very thick piece of Kanthal or something that is thick enough to where it can bend, but small enough to where you can kind of just move that cotton under your coil and create a gap. Now I obviously can't do it very well on here, but you know what, it's whatever. Okay, got the second piece. Okay, roll it. Alright, twist the end. Okay, now this is what your wicking should look like. You want it to be very pointy on one end and very fluffy on the other, and you also want it rolled and tightly compact to where it's nice and thin. And if you've got it rolled and tight as compact as you can get and it's still way too big, you need to take it from the fluffy end and you need to just tear it in half and just try to work with it. Okay, now I'm gonna once again push it under. Okay, now sometimes if your wicking is just too much, what you can do is you can take it and you can, I prefer to use my wire snips because it's much easier than just trying to go there with a pair of scissors, because for those of you who have tried cutting cotton, you can definitely try to understand that if you don't have the right scissors it's going to suck. But what you can do is you can trim it a little bit at the end and just trim it to where you want it, and then you can just push all that back in and get it working to the way you want. Okay, now I'm going to take a look at one of my coils real quick, because for some reason it stopped working earlier and I just want to make sure that there's no shorting or whatever. And so far it looks pretty good. Okay. That's why. Always make sure your posts have a very tight and solid connection. You don't want them too tight, because if your coil is at the right gauge, or if you're twisting your coils to make it better, if it's at the right, amount, it can actually cause it to snap if you don't keep it snug, if you tighten it too much. But pretty much there we go. We have our coils all nice, wicked up, ready to go. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna take our juice. Mine is a high PG content, but if you really want cloud, you're gonna want a high VG content. If you want flavor and cloud, I would go with a 70 VG 30 PG mix. But other than that, it's pretty nice. What you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to just paint that juice on there. And what I mean by paint is, if you have a high VG content, like if you have a high PG content, you could pretty much just drip it on there and it's just gonna soak up no matter what. Okay? But if you have a high, very, very high VG content, what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to take it, you're gonna want to just make sure it has a drop, and you're just gonna want to paint it on there. Okay? But since I have a high PG content, I can just pretty much soak this without an issue. I'm gonna crank this sucker up to 3.8 volts. Oh, she is fuming. She is ready to go. This is a 0.3 ohm coil. I can run this at a full 50 watts, if it'll. Alrighty. It'll still run 3.8 volts at a full 50 watts. And she just, wow. I'm going to take you guys over to a phase view so I can show you guys what kind of cloud production this thing can do on a mostly PG based juice.